Okay, hello guys. Good morning to all. Welcome to SafetyG TV. Okay, guys, today I have training topics that's very important. Okay, especially in the workplace. It can be used either it is in any types and variants of workplace location because this kind of activity is very familiar and it's always been used or been work inside. Okay, this topic, guys, is very special and important, especially on fire and any kind of hazardous explosive prevention. To understand what is hot work. Okay, and before I start, okay, I will introduce myself. Okay, I am Jeremy Balado. I am a safety manager working in here in one of the biggest company in Saudi Arabia. I will share to you this topic in order to share some ideas for a new safety officers regarding on this activity. Okay, it's very simple concept, but I hope that it will give a learning to the other new safeties that has in this profession. Okay, I'll start now. Okay, okay, guys. The topic is hot work. Okay, hot work, guys, is a process that can be a source of ignition when flammable materials is present or can be a fire hazard regardless of the presence of flammable materials in the workplace. That is the content of this training. Okay, next slide. Okay, hot work. Okay, many of us understand that hot work is you imaginize the condition in which you will see there's a fire or frictions. A very good sample is grinding, okay, and cutting. It's a very good sample that we can define always, okay? But barely in your mind, guys, there are many types of hot works that can be found in our project site, okay? We will go to the definition. Okay. This training objectives, guys, is to understand the definition and scope of hot work, to identify and assess the hazardous associated with hot work and the work surroundings, okay, to take effective control measures to eliminate hazards and reduce hazards to acceptable level, to strictly observe hot work procedures and implement hot work permit system, to ensure hot work takes place safely. Okay, this is our topic objectives, guys, in order to have an idea in the upcoming slides. Okay, now what is hot work? Okay, hot work is an activity that produces a source of ignition. That's why I tell you before the start that the training presentation, it's the procedure that needs to have sparks. Okay, the best common sample is welding, cutting, grinding, friction, electrical bridging, tools that produces sparks, heat, sand and grits blasting, heat treatment and stress relieving, opening of electric equipment, petrol or diesel engine in area with combustible vapor, presence of pyrotropic substance. Okay, pyrotropic substance. Next slides. General hazard. The general hazard of this, guys, is fire. What's commonly fire? Electric shock, explosion, amputations, inhaling toxic fumes, gases, eye injuries, and mechanical injuries. Okay, this is a common general hazards that we engage during the hot work. Okay, causes of accident. This is the commonly causes of accident that can be found during accident, guys. Okay, risk was not been identified via risk assessment and GHA. That's very important, guys. The proper assessment indicates training, inadequate training. That's why during the hot work, guys, you must have and obtain a good training for hot work because this is part of your safety inductions from your facility that is being added. then carelessness and shortcuts, poor housekeeping, defective equipment, poor lighting and ventilation, faulty groundings and equipment, flammable and explosive toxic fumes and vapors, improper storage and handling of compressed gases and cylinders, and no or continued atmospheric or gas testing was being done. So it's very important, guys, especially you are working in oil and gas company. Okay. Control measures. Prepare to the risk assessment or JHA, as we call, prior to the work. Okay, this is what we do to prevent and to have control measures in order to prevent any accident. Okay, ensure work area workers are trained. Okay, provisions and inspections of proper equipment. Restart safety toolbox talk meeting. That's why we need to have or to refresh or to remind workers under our organization in order not to be harmed. Assist worker and area, assist work area and isolate and remove potential flammable or combustible substance in the work area before start of work. That's why it's very special, guys. That's why it needs to require the proper housekeeping and removing any types of flammable, combustible agent or materials that was being nearby during the hot work. Okay. Ensure good ventilation in work area, especially in confined space. Then provision and use of correct personal protective PPE, proper PPEs, guys, and use of shields, fire blankets, and protective devices to control sparks and hot slugs, and atmospheric gas testing in the area. That's why we required atmospheric gas testing, because, guys, during the confined space, guys, it needs to be monitored the level of oxygen level to ensure that you will not explode inside the manhole or in any kind of confined space work activity, because it will generate more oxygen, high level of flammability or explosion you will be encounter. Take note on that. Okay, next is control measures. This is save for the last. Okay, take note on that. It's very important. Do not use damaged electrical cords or tools. Okay, only qualified electricians shall make electrical connections. Use of GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter, and implement lockout tagout system. This is very familiar and very important in the workplace, guys, to be understand. Okay, welding. Okay, this is the common welding precautionary, guys. Okay, do not lean against energized steel plate or work pieces when you are cutting gut wet. In edge to edge, okay, you will not lean it, because the other side will go fall down and the other side you will go together. Okay, put plastic boards or other insulation materials on floor when it is damp. Okay, most wear isolated gloves. That's why must have isolated gloves. That's why, guys, make sure that if you are doing welding, you must use your leather gloves and double it with the hand or cotton gloves to prevent soreness or irritants during the welding. Long period of holding the rods. Check all electrical cables, no exposed wires and splice connections. Use proper wire cable for connections. It's common issue, guys, that found in welding safety. Okay, next slides. Oxyacetylene welding and cutting. Take note, guys, a hot work PT permit to work must be obtained. That's why all hot work activity, especially oil and gas, ordinary construction, or any types of work industry, guys, work permit must be obtained, especially doing hot work. Okay, And always use flashback arrestor. Actually guys, flashback arrestor guys is a kind of devices that was been installed in the gas. This one both end and end to prevent any pipe leakage. Then it will stop the flow of any kind of flammable gases to exert that can cause explosion. Okay, take note on that. Hoses and cylinder must be properly connected. It should be have connector or what we call this latch or clip to hold it. Okay. Then daily inspection of hoses and regulator assembly. Okay. This is the SOP guys. And properly handle and store cylinder. And take effective fire prevention measures. And measures and cutting and grinding. Okay. Bench and pedestal grinders should be permanently mounted or secured. That's why if doing grinding guys, you must check properly because most of the accident is from the not properly used the grinder. Okay? Then maximum RPM rating of each abrasive wheel must be compatible with the RPM rating of the grinder motor. So I take note guys, that's why during withdrawing the disc, make sure that whatever the capacity of your grinder must be matched. The warehouse will define it, or your job safety or site safety must understand this kind of requirement because most of the cutting accident must from this the abrasive wheel RPM ratio or using a substandard or improper disc blade in the grinding unit. Each electricity operated grinder should be effectively grounded or double insulated. Okay. The purpose of this one is to drop down the extra energy guys. Okay. Next is precautionary measures. Okay. Measure the side of the wheel should not be used for grinding. This is for bench grinding equipment guys. Okay. And unless use a special design for that purpose. Okay. Defective abrasive wheels, crack, broken out or off balance, not be used. Okay. You must check the abrasive wheels, especially bench grinder. This is the proper and appropriate way to check before you start it. Okay. Abrasive wheels that have been discarded should not be reused. That's why you must check before you use any type of abrasive wheel equipment, especially bench grinder. It is very important guys to check. Now we goes to the personal protective equipment. Okay. In the hot work activity, this is very common PPE to be used. As I have mentioned previously, okay, the gas wielders should wear impact and heat resistant goggles or eye protection. Okay. For the arc welders, should wear helmet and eye protection that resist heat, fire impact, and electricity. Okay. For dry welder, gloves to protect against the shock, burns, and electrocution. Then respirator may be required for some jobs. Then wear long sleeves shirt with collars and cuffs button. So I always seal the below your chin is cuff button. Okay. Next, this is the common PPE that we have used and recommend. You will see the figure. Okay. Now let's go to the risk of hot work in the hazard areas. Okay. Main risk is the simultaneous presence of flammable vapor and ignition source. This is very common guys that why because this is the if we will go back to the fire tetrahedron or fire triangle, okay, we must define that if there's any source of ignition, that's the hot work, we can develop the fire or explosion. That's why it's been defined that main risk, okay, the simultaneous presence of flammable vapors means any kind of flammable gases nearby that can detect immediately for a certain spark that can cause chain reaction of fire and ignition source. So very important guys to define your workplace what's this kind of material. Okay? Facility areas classified as hazardous if flammable vapor is likely to be present. Okay? Toxic substance may also be present. Okay? So that's why he recommend take note on this. So a system is needed to control the presence of ignition, okay, in order the ignition source in the hazardous area and hot work permit system. That's why the best way to control this activity is using or by making proper assessment and proper documenting in the hot work permit system. That's why it's very important that we as a safety professionals always request and ask our supervisors, engineers, foreman if they have the activity of hot work. Okay, we always find where is the work permit so that from the work permit we can now define what type of work, what is the duration, and who performed the activity. Okay, it will be there. Okay, next topic. The next slide is what does the hot work permit covers. It's very important, guys, that the work permit authority for all aspect of the work, as I explained previously, and presence of description of the work, okay, and equipment and location, validity period. Uh, Steps are required to isolate equipment and proper work site to make it safe. Okay? And test result confirming the work area is free from unacceptable risk, especially flammable gases. Uh, I will explain guys after. Description of all remaining hazard and required precautions and controls including monitoring and completion of work, then acceptance of equipment and withdrawal of the permit. Okay, guys. First, guys, is the authorization. Actually, guys, in different kind of company, okay, if the work permit system is there, there is what we call the permit receiver. Okay, this permit receiver is entitled for engineer, supervisor, foreman, and managers. Okay, they are authorized to apply the work permit so that they can define in and take responsibility, okay, the ownership in any kind of risk that was been there in the work permit. That's why we oblige as a safety practitioner, safety engineer to call this kind of person so that any risk must be found immediately they can remove it. Okay? They will do the direct action. Okay, and presence of description of the work, of the equipment, location means in the work permit you will fill up the complete data as I explained to you guys that you will file the information barely in the work permit detailed information there because you will put a mark there what type of activity, then step requirement and what type of step the procedure will do. And take note guys, test result confirming workplace area. This will be guys will be monitored, especially you are working in confined space activity, chamber, containers, manholes, deck. This is need required gas test guys. It must have a complete, the oxygen level must be 19.25 to 20.10 oxygen level 23. This criteria, guys, to be there. Okay, and LEL is low explosive level must be 0. Then uh, for hydrogen sulfide must be 0, 0. This should be there, indicate. Then the required gas tester or certified gas tester must be there to put the data on the work permit. Okay, and the description of the hazard, define what type of hazard and how it to control. And completion of the work. Actually, guys, to tell you, work permit have a validity of 8 hours working duration only in the oil and gas, and especially in high risk level of area. There should be a one shift only in the standard, and it for in the outside benchmark it should be in the ship to ship. First ship, second ship, there should be a change of the work permit in the operation. That's why it's have an 8 hours duration per activity. Okay, then acceptance, acceptance, acceptance of equipment and withdrawal of permit. This is what one of the important that before and after we apply permit, and closing a permit is very important to define the the remaining, or it must be properly inspected before you leave the proper area or the area. Already remove the risk. Okay, next is what is fire watch? Fire watch is the stop is a person in the area in which he has an ability to monitor, okay, the ongoing activity in which any kind of unwanted sparks or uncontrolled spillage of any kind of friction or sparks, he can directly and immediately control it. Okay, stop unauthorized entry into the area. Okay, if the area is isolated, nobody can get. The fire watch also have authority to remove or aware anybody to come inside that is not part of the team working. Okay, provide and inspect firefighting equipment. Okay, he's the one checking what is available fire equipment in the hot work activity. Okay, monitor for presence of combustible gas. Is the one checking if any types of any leak gas. He will check everything. Remain alert on the flammable substance to raise an alarm. Shut down equipment. Okay, in order to control it. Okay, then wet down the work area and squash with sparks. That's why sometimes, guys, our bench or what we call this working area bench is having too much dry, and what he will sprinkle it with water so that it will not be what we call the as also dusty, and also can cause dry material will be force or spark that can cause fire. Okay, and stop the job condition becomes unsafe. So he is have authorization to stop any type of hot work in case of any uncontrolled fire existence. Okay, and constantly move around the hot work area to check for possible hot flux and material that might causes ignition, especially in workplace location, guys. This is his job and duty to take care, okay, on his working location. Actually, the guy is in charge of to prevent an act, to prevent any fire or sources of frictions that uncontrollable. He will determine it and remove it out. Okay. Next slide. Okay. Hot work inside confined space. Okay, it's very important, guys. This involves the combined, okay, risk in entering the hot work, which requires an entry, okay, and permit, and hot work permit. It's very important, guys. That's why I have said before previously that the hot work, okay, must be assessed, especially in the confined space area, because there are many elements that can be causes. Okay, the entry is very narrow. One, okay, the atmospheric precautions, atmospheric gas test before entry. That's why there are many types of gases inside the confined space area that uncontrolled. That's why this is the common risk and precaution. That's why we do atmospheric gas test before entry to define what type of gases inside to prevent or to protect our employee or team inside working, doing the hot work. And gas cylinder and the welding machine to be located outside, up wide, and minimum of 6 meters away from any confined space entry point. This guys to prevent any explosion guys to become worse. Okay, so it have 6 meters on the area. Then gas supplies, cutting torch, and hose to be removed inside the confined space during the work breaks. That's why all oxyacetylene hoses will be returned back, pulled back to the upper level or to the norm to the stage that it has been locked and mounted with flashback arrestor is to prevent or safety standards required, and ventilation should be adequate to remove fumes. That's why we as a safety professional to provide this in the procedure a proper exhaust fan to remove intake and out. So there are two components, suction and exhaust. That's why this is the very important, forward and exhaust. And electric load holder to be de-energized during the work break. Okay, this must be if there's already machine properly grounded, and the electrode must be properly. There should be no rod to be in the welding tip. Okay, it must be removed and put a ground to de-energize the system, the welding machine. And provision of adequate lightings and maximum 50 volts. That's why there should be a proper the minimum required in special in confined space that the minimum only provision is only 50 volts maximum. That's why we use 12 volts inside the manhole. Okay, required is required for SOP for confined space activity, especially hot work inside, and required high required if it is in the flammable or oil and gas vicinity. Then isolating mats required for easy welding over 50 volts. That's why it's very important, guys. Precautionary process, okay, for during the hot work. Next slide. Okay, summary. Overall, guys, hot work is one of the highest risk activities in the construction job. Correct, and I agree with it. Okay, based on the census of OSHA, okay, most common totally of fatality is actually 35 to 45% in the work condition in construction is from the hot work activity. It can devastate. For example, I will give you one sample. If you will understand the Piper Alpha incident in the oil and gas field in Mexico, if you will see this one in the YouTube, Piper Alpha. The course of condition that was being missed there is the handover of the permit to work system that engaged the mechanism or mechanical pumps drilled or maneuver and create friction that was not being controlled, and that's the result of total fire out in that platform. Okay, and we have to discuss the risk and to control that are available. The hot work permit system is very important, guys. What is the purpose of the hot work permit system? The line management use the risk management process to identify and assess and the risk. That's why we always request safety or safety department that the one who will select to be a permit receiver in the work permit must understand the types of work and can do to mitigate the risk in case of there's any risk to be controlled, to take the ownership, okay? And appropriate control must be applied to be attempt required by the risk in all non-routine work in initial risk must be controlled.